Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to Financial Juneteenth, where we are determined to break the chains of economic slavery. And one segment that I love to do on video is something called Dr. Boyce and Nomalanga, and that's where I get a chance to talk to my good buddy, Miss Nomalanga Mushali Moses from HealthyBlackWoman.com. First, I want to ask Noma, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, boys. How are you?
I am fine. I'm fine. And you and I saw this really interesting thing that happened with Sony Pictures, and they were hacked. Which I guess the government's now turning this into some sort of international incident. Where the State Department's involved and saying North Korea is responsible, and next thing you know, we'll be sending our troops and our battleships or whatever. But the interesting thing about the hack is that it's actually turned out to be really revealing, a little disturbing, a little disappointing, a little hurtful, and a little funny. In that,
Informative.
right, informative, all of that, right?
Mhm.
Because you're seeing these things. The whole world is seeing what some of these executives are talking about when the public is not looking, particularly when black people aren't looking. And some of the remarks they've made have been interesting, like calling Kevin Hart a money whore because he wanted more money for tweeting. Some of the comments have been racially disturbing. Comments about President Obama and listing all the slave movies and the black movies that Obama probably likes, and I think that they said that television deals are the new black baby. That it was once fashionable to adopt a black baby, now it's fashionable for celebrities to get a television deal. Well, the latest thing that was released today by I want to say Radar Online was these comments about Denzel Washington, and basically from what's been reported, the Sony executives feel, or I don't want to say the executives feel, there was a producer who emailed the executives and who basically said Denzel's films, Denzel's a great actor, but films with black leads don't tend to do very well internationally. And if we're seeking as an organization to make money from films that we expect to do well internationally, we should reconsider using black leads. And so here's some of what he said, just to quote him specifically. And they don't give the name of the person. I'll just say him for generic purposes. He says, no, I am not saying the Equalizer should not have been made or that African American actors should not have been used. In parentheses, he says, I personally think Denzel is the best actor of his generation. Casting him is saying we're okay with a double if the picture works. So the double means, he's using a baseball analogy, where in baseball you either hit a home run, a single, a double, or a triple. So he's saying a double is good, but it's not a home run.
Mhm.
Um, he's reliable at the domestic box office, safe. I guess he's a safe Negro, but has or just a safe person. Let's not make that racial. But has not had a huge success in years. I believe whenever possible, the non-event pictures, extra bets, should have a large inherent upside and be made for the right price. Here, there isn't a large inherent upside. Um, so first, I'll let you kind of tell me what you're seeing from some of this, and then I'll kind of chime in with my 2 cents.
Sure. My answer might surprise you. I actually think he was just stating some facts
Mm,
and making some observations. Now, what they do with the information, I think, is what interests me more. And I think the fact that they went ahead and made the movie, even though they could foresee that it may not have been what did you call it again? A
Uh,
home run.
it may not have been a home run,
In a
right?
home run. They went, it does to some degree make me feel like, okay, so there's a balance between being profitable and recognizing that Denzel Washington is an excellent actor who deserves to have been the lead in that role.
Okay, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with what you said. I mean, because I think that there are different ways to kind of look at this, right? Um, Effectively, what this guy's saying, it's really interesting. He's trying so hard to be sensitive and politically correct, but at the same time, he's trying very hard to be a capitalist and a pragmatist, right? And basically, the capitalism and the pragmatism tells you Your goal is to make as much money as possible, and if race gets in the way of you making more money, then you need to go ahead and deal with that, right? Which is how you get these ridiculous films like Exodus, Gods and Kings, where they take all the Egyptians and make them white. Um, you know, and then maybe the pragmatist in him is saying, "Look, it's not our fault. The world is racist. We have to cater to this if we want to make money."
Right.
But then, there is kind of an expectation, an ethical expectation that that you're not always going to be a capitalist. That sometimes you're going to have a double bottom line that says, you know what, it may not be entirely or perfectly profitable for us to do the right thing, but we're going to do it anyway because we can still make
Right.
money doing the right thing, right? And then in contradiction to the pragmatism, there is something to be said about having at least a little bit of idealism, maybe at least sprinkling some idealism into your pragmatism, where you say, okay, I'm not just going to respond to the world as it is. I'm going to talk about what the world should be. And the world should not be a place where an actor as talented as Denzel Washington can't get a movie made because they think the world's racist and they're going to make. I mean, the Equalizer did really well. It made
Yeah, it
191
did.
million dollars. I mean, that's a good take. Now, maybe they could have made 200 million with a white guy, but you know, I mean, you did the right thing. I mean, isn't there something to be said about the fact that Sony can still make tons of money while doing what they know that they should do from an ethical standpoint? What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that, and I kind of said that I think it's good that they went ahead and did it anyway, even though they realized that it wasn't going to max out, whereas maybe it would have. And another thing that I wanted to add was we have to think about not just idealism, but actually, movies and acting are supposed to be about art. And art does have to have some level of authenticity about it. And when you do take movies like Exodus and take all the black people or not white people and turn them into white people, I think you've lost the authenticity, first of all. And then it is, in my opinion, it is the wrong thing to do, even if it is the more profitable thing to do. However, I will say, you're a businessman, I'm a businesswoman. That has to be factored in. When you do something, is it viable? Is it a viable thing to do in your business? And we have to face the facts that they are running a business. They're getting paid. They're paid to make money for the company. So that always has to be balanced. But I do appreciate that they went ahead and made the movie anyway, even though they realized that it could have done better if they used somebody else. But then again, they did say that Denzel was safe. And it turns out they were right because he did do what they expected him to do and he sells movies. And I'll be honest, in my own experience, if I hear that there's a movie coming out and I'm not really all that interested, if I hear that Denzel's going to be interested in the movie, suddenly I'm interested. And there are a few actors in Hollywood that I feel that way about. And there's very few, actually. Maybe Angela Bassett, and I can't think of many more. But there are only a few who I know that, okay, if he's in it, then that must mean it's worth my while. And I think that's what Denzel has going for him, other than the fact that he's an excellent actor. And they did validate that. They said, in fact, he's one of the best actors of all time. But here are the facts.
Well, here's why I'm jealous of Denzel. First of all, he's extremely talented. I saw him. Here's the thing: if you've never had a chance to see Denzel act in person, maybe on stage, you want to take that opportunity. I went to go see him in a play. I want to say it was called Fences, if I'm not
Duly
mistaken.
noted.
Yes, and I mean he dominated the stage. I mean, just when he was on that stage, you saw him, and it was like the sun blocking out the other planets. I mean,
Wow.
his presence on stage is very powerful. In the last act of the film, uh, or excuse me, of the play, his character had died,
Hmm.
and it was almost like a basketball game at the end of the game when the team's down by 20 points and everyone goes out to the parking lot to try to
Hmm.
to try to beat the traffic. That's how
Right.
people felt. They said, this is not the same play anymore now that his character is gone.
Wow.
He's extraordinarily powerful as an actor, and we have to respect him for that. His longevity is absolutely legendary. Now, but what I think about too is, what about the actors who are not Denzel Washington? I mean, there are so many. If you think about this, here this man is one of the most accomplished and esteemed individuals in all of Hollywood, and even he is being hit with this kind of structural racism, which that's pretty much what it is, right?
Right.
Um, and not to say these Sony execs are bad people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's a structural racism here. You've got these executives making key decisions about the lives of these actors and actresses that, where their biases get to dictate whether a person is successful or they fail, right? What about all those actors out there that, Chris Rock even said that he said basically if you're a black man, with a goatee and bass in your voice, like you're a real man. You're not gay. You're not,
Not effeminate.
you're not effeminate. There you go. I don't want to say nothing against black men who are gay, but basically he's saying that if you are a masculine black male, you will get no opportunities in Hollywood. What do you say about that? I mean, how does that make those people feel? When you can be as perfect as a Denzel Washington, yet still have people question whether or not they should take a bet on you. I mean, what's the walkaway with that?
This is the part of the conversation that I actually like. I honestly, and I think you know how I feel about these kinds of things. I personally feel like black people should stop begging Hollywood to put them in their movies and stop complaining and all that other stuff. And honestly, build your own. I've said it over and over and over again. It may take a while. I'll go on a little tangent and tell you one of the movie industries that I absolutely admire is the Nigerian film industry. Just 5 years ago, they were laughable. It looked like, my son's video camera and, no editing. It was just laughable. However, over the years, they've become better and better and better to the point where now those actors are making living wages. At first, it was to a point where you couldn't make money enough to live and be in those movies. But it's gotten to a point now where they're people who have actual, living wages off of that industry. And
It's
to me,
it's called Nollywood, right? Or that's the
yes,
name.
it is. It's called
Yeah,
Nollywood.
yeah. Hollywood, Nollywood, and
Hollywood
Bollywood.
and
Bollywood
Bollywood,
is in India.
right?
Okay,
And the
yeah.
same thing applies to Bollywood. Some years ago, Bollywood was not as prolific and amazing and all that as it is now. So that's what it takes. I can't at this point in my life understand why anyone who has been clearly shown that they're unwanted would persist in trying to squeeze their way into something that is rejecting them. I don't understand that. I'm not saying that people shouldn't fight the good fight for justice, for equality, and so forth. But for me, I don't see why anyone would want to force themselves onto something that's rejecting them. I think it's better to build your own.
Well, I agree with you, and that's what financial Juneteenth is all about. It's about achieving that economic freedom, which really is the key to lots of other forms of freedom too, not just economic. And and one thing that I can say is that part of the dilemma is psychological, part of it is economic, and then there are other components as well. But the psychological piece is one where we have to confront the idea that black self-esteem has always been quite low. We always sort of
Collectively.
right. We've always right as a collection exactly. We've always sort of worked so hard to get these people to like us, even though they've told us repeatedly that they don't. We want them to accept us, even though they've told us repeatedly that they don't want to do that. And at some point, you have to say, well, look, if you are trying to get Sony's money, you're going to have to play by Sony's rules. So,
Right.
and Sony's going to make the decisions that affect your life. And so, you're going to be stressed out, emasculated, and angry and all these other things that happen when somebody is forcing their will upon you. But that's kind of the position that we put ourselves in economically when we don't understand that we need a generation of builders, not a
Right.
generation of followers and people
Beggars.
beggars and followers and all these exactly. And so, but and the other funny thing is, when you talk about the economic piece is it's really interesting when you think about the fact that so many of us line up for these opportunities with the Sonys of the world because that's fast money, right? That's an easy way to become a millionaire overnight. You're not thinking about building things on your own. And I know that even as we created Your Black World Films, there are certain people that we can get to be a part of our projects. Some people who won't do it because they want us to be able to pay what they could make from NBC or something. And we're like, we don't have NBC money,
Right.
But it's a tough thing. In fact, Tyler Perry goes through that even now. Now I'm not going to say working for Tyler Perry is a wonderful thing. I've heard mixed, to be honest with you. I've heard
Right.
some people say it's a great experience, some people say it's not. But I've heard people say as well. Well, Tyler does not pay what so and so pays, and I'm like,
Well,
yeah,
Hollywood pays.
right, what Hollywood pays and what ABC networks pays, and I'm like, yeah, but I mean, can we really expect that? I mean, how long has Perry Studios been around? What, 5 years, 6 years, something like that? ABC and NBC, these companies have been around for decades, many, many, many decades. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. If you don't, the biggest cure to racism I have found in my own life, No Malanga, is when I learned to make my own money. Racism didn't bother me nearly
As
as much as it did when I was under somebody else's roof. So, and I think that's the bottom line. I'll let you get the last word.
I can only agree with you, and I would say it goes further than racism. Any kind of marginalization, prejudice that you face, you can diminish it by doing your own thing. It won't be great, it won't be glamorous, it won't be as big as theirs because they've been doing theirs for a longer time than you have, but you can start somewhere. And then another thing that I wanted to add was you said something about quick money. Either these people need to eat, they want money, they want to be millionaires and so forth, so they'll go for the easy money. But we're back to square one. The very same debate, the very same dialogue we're having about Sony is, do you go for the money or do you go for doing the right thing? And the same thing applies to when you're starting out, as an actor, are you going to go for Hollywood because you're going to make more money in Hollywood? Or do you go for the Tyler Perrys or the other startups and kind of do it because it's the right thing and because you want to invest in the future, not just tomorrow, next year, 5 years from now, but for generations to come? Those are the pioneers. Those are the people we'll be talking about 30 years from now, and more generations from here on. I personally am a builder. I know you're a builder too, but not everybody's like that. Some people are short-sighted, and I think that some people don't realize that for the last maybe 50 years in the black community, people are starting over every single generation. They're not passing on anything. They just keep starting over and starting over and starting over. And that is one of the causes of poverty, when you just keep starting over and starting over and starting over. And that kind of thinking, I believe, has to stop.
All right. Well, I think you said it all. Let's stop starting over and let's start something that lasts. Let's think of ourselves as part of an intergenerational continuum as opposed to thinking that it starts and stops with me. That, my kids are going to have to just start from ground zero. They shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to leave them something. And you can't just think about yourself. You have to think about your great, 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 great grandkids as well. Thank you so much, Noma Lang. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, this is Noma Langa Mushali Moses. You got to go check out our site at healthyblackwoman.com. And me, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Financial Juneteenth. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.